Welcome to the Millennial Reset Podcast. Stories of everyday millennials that are redefining success and happiness. Those that have decided to face those subconscious limiting beliefs head on and take the path less traveled to hit reset. Stories that inspire you to take the leap to pursue the passions, dreams, and goals of your inner child and not the expectations of society. If you're new here, welcome. You found your people. I'm your host, Peter Goose, burnt out millennial turned human design and mindset coach, and it's now my mission to create a space to have the conversations out loud around millennial burnout and mindset and inspire and empower my fellow millennial besties to decondition from the programs that keep so many of us stuck and rediscover your most authentic identity, or in other words, the Millennial Reset. And I'm so glad you're here. Hey besties, welcome to another episode of the Millennial Reset. I am so excited for you all to meet my guest today, Britt Kelly. She is turning into quite the little sensation on TikTok with her multiple viral millennial nostalgia granny posts. So before we dive in here, I just want y'all to take a quick little preview to one of her most recent viral posts. Take a listen.
Well, we would just pick, our top favorite friends, like 8 of them, and we would rank them publicly. And then, if someone pissed you off at school that day, you just go home, take them off, and wait for them to notice. Yeah, but when she got up there to get her award, he jumped up on the stage and he said, "I'm gonna let you finish in a minute." But Beyonce had won. Well, yeah, we watched it in our middle school English class. It was a terrorist attack, but we watched it on the roll-in TVs, and then we all went home and ate spaghetti for dinner, and then the next day came back and ran the mile for gym class, Oh, honey, we would just find a field somewhere, and we didn't know who owned it, whose property it was, but we would just drink until we passed out. And did I tell you about Four Loko?
It's all just so true and so resonating. Welcome, Brittany Kelly. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So, Britt, the first question I've got for you, and I'm sure everybody is dying to know this. For those of you that have not checked her out yet, be sure to go check her out on TikTok, Britt L. Kelly 919. We'll make sure we post that with the podcast episode. But Britt, you kind of put yourself out there as like this granny millennial that is sharing life in the 90s/early 2000s with your grandkids in the future. Where did you get this idea? Because it's genius.
I do a lot of TikTok scrolling, and the aged filter just happened recently, and most of the people that were using it with like the caption of "dermatologists say that this is very accurate. This is what you're going to look like." And they were like, "Oh, I don't like this." They were just like testing out the filter and posting that, or I think Kylie Jenner did the whole, "Oh no, I don't like it." Mm-hmm. I actually kind of enjoyed it because I look a little bit like my mom. But I was like, well, let's lean into that and make fun of it. And like, if we're going to look like this one day and we're going to be talking about the most absurd stuff that actually happened to us, they're going to think we're all senile. So they're going to be like, "All right, grandma, it's time for bed." So I said, let's just lean into this. So I started doing it, and people really liked it. And so I figured as long as people kept saying, "Oh, I love this," I keep posting them, I'll just keep being granny.
Yeah. And people are loving it indeed. You've got one of them that had 2 million, several of them that have gone viral since then. So people are picking up on it. And I'm curious to hear from you, Britt, because we talked a little bit about this before we came on the air, and I kind of have my own thoughts on this, but why do you think it is that like us millennials love this 90s, early 2000s nostalgia so much?
Because that was the last time that like things were really good for us before they all went to shit. I think back, I have this very fond feeling, this very fond memory of laying in my childhood living room on the floor with a big giant box TV, watching like Wild and Crazy Kids on Saturday morning on Nickelodeon. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to be on that show so bad. And it just, you feel comfortable. You feel, it's just this nice, warm and fuzzy feeling. And now We're all adults and we're trying to, pay the mortgage or buy a house and take care of our kids if we have them. And it's so stressful. And that was just such an easy time where like, we didn't have to worry about that because our parents did. And we just watch shows on Nickelodeon and play with Tamagotchis and Pogs. And I feel like that would make sense for anyone to think back on that and feel warm and fuzzy.
Yeah, totally. I was thinking the
Also,
other
some
day.
of it was ridiculous. Like you
Yeah.
think about like this, like dancing, grinding on one another in a middle school cafeteria to from the windows to the walls in front of all of your teachers. Like that's
Uh-huh.
ridiculous. And we all have that collective memory.
Right? It's what keeps us all tied together, right? Is that it's almost
Right.
like once that one single song comes on, all the millennials to the dance floor.
Yes, you just
Um,
sprint.
yeah, exactly. I was talking to somebody the other day about like, coming home from school as a kid in the 90s and early 2000s, and you get home and the full kind of lineup of like Full House, Family Matters, and it was like therapy, right? Therapy when you were a kid. And I was like, oh, well, they need to like, maybe it is back on TV somewhere or another. If it is, I need to figure out where, because it's like, we just took it for granted that we got like free therapy as kids from all of these shows on TV. And I'm like, oh, I miss those days. I
Yeah, like
long
we
for
grew
those.
up watching like DJ Tanner, who like starved herself because she was going to be in a bathing suit at a birthday party. And like
Uh-huh.
her dad and uncles came and had this really nice heartfelt moment with her that like I'm sure all of us really had that at home.
Yeah.
But it's comforting to watch that. In fact, my husband makes fun of me because there was a time where not too long ago where I was really sick and my comfort show was I found it on I think HBO or some streaming service, and I just binged the original Full House the entire time I was sick.
Oh my
It was
gosh.
very comforting.
Amazing. That's the best medicine out there. Who needs to go to the doctor when you've got Danny Tanner? He can
Right?
solve anything.
And he'll clean everything too.
Yeah, exactly. But what I love about your story, Britt, is that it goes above and beyond just like becoming this viral sensation on TikTok. Is that part of your story also involves kind of this own like reset moment of your own and struggles with burnout and some of those experiences growing up and having to grow up very quickly as millennials. So let's talk a little bit about that. Talk about kind of for you coming out of college and checking off the quote unquote checklist as a millennial, right? The get married, the have kids. Talk to us about kind of what your early adult life slash career was like.
Yeah, so like I most of my friends went straight to college and I did the whole like I'm gonna take a year off
Mm-hmm.
because I'm a rebel. That year off turned into many years off. But I, met my husband. We got married pretty young, had kids really young, started working like corporate jobs. And then I would go back to school and then I'd get pregnant again and then go back to school. I think after a while I was like, why risk it? I might get pregnant again if I go back to college. But no, I'm kidding. I love my kids. But um, yeah, I was just working all the time at these corporate jobs where it's like the pay was great. And
Yeah.
for my age, I was like able to like step up pretty quickly and, um, you know, always did fairly well at work, but nothing was ever really fulfilling. And it was like you would go to work, you would sit behind a computer, you would do your like corporate blah, blah job, and then you'd come home and take care of the kids. And then you'd do it like wash and repeat every single day. And
Yeah.
it's like what like I wasn't finding a lot of joy in that at all.
Yeah.
And
It's like, what are we doing
yeah,
this for? What's the outcome here, right?
right. Like I know I'm doing this to like pay the bills and take care of my family, but other than that, like there's got to be more to this than just paying my bills and taking care of my family.
Yeah, exactly. And your story, I think, is very similar to so many others, myself included, where COVID and quarantine was kind of a big part of that kind of turnaround moment, that realization to say there's got to be something different. I can't keep doing this for the next 30 years of my life, right? So talk to us a little bit about that, of what were some of the ahas and the realizations that you had during COVID, kind of that wake up call.
Yeah. So, I mean, we all went home to flatten the curve for what, 6 weeks? How long did they say we were going home?
What, I think
And
it was supposed to be what, just like 3 or 4 weeks, right? At the beginning
uh,
of it. Yeah.
we were so young and naive. Um, but I had my daughter was in kindergarten. And then I had another daughter who was in daycare prior to that. And then I had a baby who wasn't even a year old.
Oh my
And
goodness.
all of a sudden they were all home because even the daycares were like, we are only open for essential workers. So if you are working from home, we can't keep your kids. And
Yeah.
then I was working for a university and they were like, oh, we understand that it's difficult. If we need to reduce you down to part-time, just let us know. And I'm like, part-time pay doesn't pay my mortgage. So I was
Yeah.
just hustling and grinding and I was working while also like running into the other room to take care of the baby or the toddler. And my daughter was in kindergarten. And so she was doing like school through Zoom at 5 years old, 5 or 6 years old, which is just crazy to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this is miserable. I'm absolutely miserable. I was stressed for work. I remember just like waking up in the morning, I would just like throw up because I was just so stressed. And eventually I
Yeah.
did get another job, which allowed me to have like more flexibility and more realistic expectations. But I just found myself sitting at home being like, there's got to be some kind of outlet, some sort of creative outlet. I've always been more of like a creative kind of person.
Yeah.
I was like, I just have to find something that will make sense of this, give me some sort of joy where I don't feel like I'm just in a prison every single day doing the same things.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So I
And so
downloaded TikTok.
yeah, and TikTok became that thing, right? I think that's, I mean, I think I was a late bloomer elder millennial to TikTok, but yeah, it was like one of those things where it was like, oh my gosh, TikTok is it's not just about dance moves and lip syncing anymore. There are other people out here that maybe are like me.
Yeah. And honestly, I'll admit, I was that person that's like, I'm not going to download TikTok because I don't
Yeah,
need TikTok. And
same.
it's for the youths.
Hmm.
And my husband had it and he would just scroll and laugh his ass off. And I was like, okay, well, maybe you're onto something. And so I downloaded it. And I think it took a while for the algorithm to really figure out what I liked.
Yeah.
But and then I just I was like, I'm just gonna watch. I'm not gonna post anything. I'm just gonna be like an account that just like scrolls and watches
Hmm.
TikToks, but I'll never post that. I would never do that. I'll never post it.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Here we are. And I mean, part of this journey of you being able to even do this, I imagine probably had a lot to do with not only the shift in jobs, going from a job that allowed you a little bit more of that work-life balance, but also like you had kind of mentioned before too, is like the the kind of aha moment. Maybe this happened during COVID, maybe it was shortly before or after, but like the aha moment of like, I need to start taking better care of my mental health. And so talk to us a little bit about like what that realization was like for you of like, oh my gosh, I need to start doing something for my mental health, because obviously society's not going to be there to take care of it for me.
Yeah, it just got to a point where it felt like every you could cut the tension in my house with a knife. Like my
Mm,
first of all, my daughter Emma and I, we are the same person, and which is very sweet when people say that, but also incredibly frustrating
yeah.
because we just butt heads constantly. And I know that I wasn't taking care of my mental health. I wasn't taking care of my stress. I was anxious a lot. And some of it may have been from, some lingering postpartum because I had a very young child at the time. But
Hmm.
um, yeah, I started actively taking care of my mental health and actively like taking time for myself and however that looked like. It could be, just spending a long time in the shower or meditating or just stepping outside to be away from everyone for a while. But I had to like really learn how to, um, take care of me because when I
Yeah.
wasn't taking care of me, I was not a good version for them
Hmm.
either.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that's such a cool thing about like TikTok and, it not like every other social media platform out there is that I think that's what TikTok allowed us to do, not only during quarantine, but beyond that is being able to kind of find that like online community of people to be like, oh, wait a second, it's not just me. Like there are other people that are out there, that are similar to me. And I love this kind of part of your story that you tell here too, of like, getting on TikTok and starting to make some of your content. And, as millennials, I think we all kind of have that little bit of like dark humor side of us, right?
Yeah.
But some of the things that you mentioned about like how being able to find that commonality between all of us that were sitting in our middle school classrooms the morning of 9/11 and being shown on live TV this terrorist attack. And did we ever actually process that as an entire generation, right?
Yeah. I mean, and I really like TikTok for that because, I mean, I had other social media. I had Facebook, but a lot of it, was family members of mine and people I
Yeah.
went to high school with. But TikTok really broadened the people you were watching and the people you were listening to. And what's funny is there's a video I posted many, many months ago when we were shooting down those like unidentified flying objects around the country.
Yeah, I think I saw that one.
And the video was really about like, okay, cool. I'm totally unfazed. Like I watched a terrorist attack in my middle school English class. And the number one thing that people commented was like, oh my gosh, I was in my middle school English class too. And I was like, is this a glitch in the matrix? Were we all in English class in middle school when 9/11 happened? Now, and there are some people that were like, of course, their experience was totally different because some of them were, lived in New York City at the time. And I completely understand that my experience is not going to be the same as theirs. But living in North Carolina, they wheeled the TVs in, we watched it. We kind of we didn't really have classes for the rest of the day. I know that they congregated all of us in this like hallway area that kind of split these two teams that we had. And we just played for the rest of the day, I think. And then we went home and like had a normal evening almost, and then went back to school the next day.
Exactly. And
did that really happen?
Exactly. Yeah. And I talk about this all the time too. It's like millennials, it's kind of the sad truth of it all. It's like we're masters of dissociation, right? Because it's like we've been through so much shit so often and so fast that it's like I don't think we really had much of a choice but to say, okay, we got to shove that down for now because I don't have the energy or time to deal with this. And then the next day, the next unprecedented historical event happens. And it's just been this like constant cycle. Right. And so that's what I love about what you're doing on TikTok more than just like, yes, it is hilarious. And it allows us to be able to like resonate with each other and realize that we're not alone. But I think furthermore is like, you're allowing us to like kind of go back and process some of the things that I think so many of us have completely forgotten about over the years or dissociated from.
I get that comment a lot. People are like, you were unlocking so many memories that I didn't realize I had way down there. And I didn't really think I had that great of a memory, but people are like, your memory is really good, which is surprising for me. But we laugh at these things. Because we can't cry about everything. Like if we cried and like freaked out about every once in a lifetime event that has happened in our one single lifetime, we would be laying on a floor. We wouldn't be able to function.
Right. We get called whiny enough already, right?
Exactly. They're like, oh, you guys are triggered. Like, shut up. So I just laugh at it all now. And I've just got this really dark sense of humor because otherwise I'll be labeled as, triggered or a snowflake. And so let's just make fun of it all.
Yeah, why not at least have fun along the way? And yeah, I think you talked about that too before, is like even part of that like journey of like the awakening moment or whatever you want to call it during COVID of like finding peace and happiness through humor, right? And being okay with that like, yeah, it's okay. Even though shit sucks right now, it's okay to find the time and find the space and find the opportunities to just laugh a little bit and enjoy the brief moments of bliss.
And it's great to like find that group of people on TikTok that are appreciative of that. Because I grew up, my brother and I both have a very dark sense of humor. Like our one of our grandmothers passed away in May, and like we were making like dead grandma jokes. Oh, God. And of course, my mom was like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't raise you children." But I mean, that's just how we cope. Like, do you want us to have a mental breakdown, or do you want us to like make fun of things that you think are inappropriate? So those are your options. Pick one or the other. But it's nice to find that apparently half of TikTok is also a little messed up in the head too. So
yeah,
that's nice.
Exactly. So let's talk a little bit about, how things are changing for you now, because all of this has happened pretty quickly, right? You started these type of posts. How long ago was it that you kind of started this?
Maybe 2 weeks ago. I mean,
oh my goodness. Yeah.
It's been now like I would post occasionally with trends or lip singing things. And they would get a couple of views here and there. Honestly, the most views that I have is when I just like pick up my camera and start talking.
Yeah.
And my husband and my mom and a few other people are like, oh, that's because you're funny. And of course, I'm in my head, I'm like, well, you have to say that because you're married to me or I'm your daughter. So you have to tell me that I'm funny.
Yeah.
And I always secretly thought I was funny too. But I was like, I just don't know if everybody else agrees. So yeah, I posted it maybe a couple of weeks ago and it blew up fast. Like
Yeah.
I remember just like my phone was blowing up and I was like, holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
And the most comments I were getting were people like saying, oh my gosh, this is so funny. I forgot about this stuff. You should keep doing this. And I had a lot of people say, if you make this a series, I promise we'll watch it.
Yeah.
And so I give the people what they want.
Gotta give the people what they want. But let's talk a little bit about, on the Millennial Reset podcast, I talk a lot about, maybe I talk too much about this, but I talk a lot about mindset and kind of the limiting beliefs piece of things, right? And we were talking a little bit about this before, but it's so true when you're getting out there on social media and especially on TikTok, because you're posting your content mostly to complete strangers and you don't know how they're going to react. So let's talk a little bit about that piece of things. Like, when you first kind of started posting some of this content and saw that it all of a sudden was like going viral, what were, if any, some of those like limiting narratives or beliefs that kind of popped up for you?
Well, even before I started doing the granny post, I would post on social media and there were a lot of times where like I wouldn't even do a TikTok unless like I had done my makeup and I looked nice. And of course, like the granny thing is totally different because it's a filter that makes you look like shit. Yeah. And so I joked at first, like, of course, of all the things that go viral, it's not me looking pretty, it's me looking like a grandma. Mm-hmm. But because it's like a whole sea of strangers, it made it easier for me to post on TikTok. Whereas I was saying to you before, I don't think I would post this content like just from the start on Facebook with people that I know, people that I've worked with, grown up with, family members, because they would probably be like, what is, or at least in my head, I think they'd be like, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. And so the idea of being able to post it on TikTok to strangers who don't know me, the mindset is like, well, if they don't like it, I'll just get rid of it. Yeah. And if they like it, they like it. And, if they don't like it, who gives a shit? Because they don't know me and they'll never see me. Mm-hmm. But apparently they like it. So yeah, I'll just keep doing it.
I love what you say here too, about this whole idea that like, when we're posting on like Facebook or Instagram, we're so used to like putting on the mask or like creating this like filter for our content. But I love what you also said there. And maybe you can kind of touch on that a bit more of like the difference of posting on something like TikTok, where it's like, you don't have to worry about filtering shit. It's like whatever you put out there, and if strangers pick up on it, then so be it. But if not, at least they're not your friends. It doesn't matter. Right. So
like how many times have I like taken, I don't know, 20 pictures, selfies before picking the one that I thought was appropriate to put on Instagram, while thinking of like, okay, well, I went to high school with a lot of these people and I've put on weight since high school. So I want to make sure I don't look like I've put on weight. And, and with TikTok, it's like, they don't care. They don't know me. They don't know what I looked like 20 years ago. They don't know what I'm going to look like in 20 years. So, and there was still a part of me that's like, I would like to look cute. Yeah. So they will like me. But, the granny filter just kind of throws that whole argument out the window. Mm-hmm. But it was like, it's a sea of strangers. So who gives a shit? Like if they say, oh, I don't like you, or I think this is stupid. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Like,
move along.
I don't know you.
Yeah. But I mean, I feel like it's also kind of like one of those millennial things too, because we're so used to like when Facebook first came out, and what was that, 2007 or something like that. And we were so used to just posting content back and forth between our friends. Same thing with Instagram for the most part. Yeah. I mean, I guess you get Instagram followers that aren't necessarily your friends, but then like when TikTok came along, it was like this game changer that was like, oh, let me just make friends and talk about shit with total strangers. And now all of a sudden, you blow up and become viral.
It was like AIM chat rooms all over again. Like I can say whatever the hell I want because you don't know me. And exactly, when you asked me ASL, I said a total lie. So like, it doesn't matter. Like, you don't know who I am. I don't know who you are. So if we connect, awesome. And if what I'm doing resonates with you, I love that. And don't get me wrong, all the comments where people say things like, oh my gosh, this is my favorite thing on TikTok right now. My husband makes fun of me because I'll be sitting like in the living room, like, but I, um, yeah, like if they don't like it, they don't like it. They can keep scrolling. They can click the like, I'm not interested in this button. And
Yeah.
that interaction does not affect me really in any way.
Hmm. Exactly. And yeah, I mean, we were talking about this a little bit before, and if somebody were to ask you for your advice, I guess, like, what would your advice be to like the everyday millennial out there that wants to get out there and start putting themselves out there on TikTok, but has those limiting beliefs that come up? That's like, they're going to judge me, they're not going to like me, they're not going to resonate with it. Like, what would you say to that person that's listening in right now?
I mean, who gives a shit? Do it anyways. I have
Mm.
scrolled back to some of my previous videos, which I mean, you can if you want, but I don't recommend it. There, some of them are so cringy. Like they're not funny,
Yeah.
they're not cute, but it was like this trial and error thing. And you can really trial and error on TikTok and it doesn't matter. I mean, and eventually something might take off. Like all it takes is for that one thing that just happens to resonate with people because the way that you blow up is when people are like sharing it to their friends. So you say one thing that
Yeah.
resonates with one person and they think it would resonate with all their friends and they send that video to everyone else. So
Hmm.
just do it. I mean, it doesn't matter what you may think other people will think of you because
Yeah.
if they don't like it, they just don't like it and it doesn't matter. And if they
Yeah.
like it, you could in 2 weeks gain 20,000 followers. I mean, it just do
There you
it.
go. You just never know. Well, Britt, one of my last questions for you here before we begin to wrap up is I want to ask you if you're thinking back to the nostalgia, the good old days of the 90s and early 2000s, what is your favorite memory? What is your favorite nostalgic experience or product or whatever you
Mm.
want to pick?
Oh my gosh, there are so many.
I know I didn't prep you for
Um,
this.
my, um, okay, I'm gonna cheat and I'm gonna give two. Because I want to. My brother and I just knew that we were gonna go on Legends of the Hidden Temple and
Mm,
we were gonna be the Blue Barracudas and we were gonna win the whole damn thing. And I think like the prize was probably like a Nintendo 64 or whatever.
yeah.
But just watching, because my brother and I, we fought a lot growing up. I absolutely love him now. We've got a great relationship, but we're only 2.5 years apart. So we were assholes to one another.
Hmm.
So having those few things where like we really enjoyed them together was such like a precious little gem to me. And so being able to watch like Legends of the Hidden Temple or Global Guts with my brother and just like, hey, yeah, you want to go on that? Yeah, like both of us, we're gonna do that together. And when the temple guards come out, we're gonna be fine, we're gonna be cool, we're gonna be collected.
Uh-huh.
So that's probably like watching those sort of shows with my brother and having that kind of like partnership almost,
Hmm.
which was a rarity, was really nice.
Yeah.
And I also missed like roll on body glitter. Like there was roll like it was always a big thing and you just rolled it everywhere and everyone was glittery and sparkly. And let's just go back to that because that seems like so much fun.
I guess
I
I wasn't
mean,
expecting that one, but now that you say that, yeah.
oh man, I mean, everyone was sparkly and no one cared. Did we look good? Probably not, but
Oh my
it was
gosh.
it was
Britt,
fun.
this is how you're gonna like get rich on TikTok. You could like make the roll-on glittery glow stick or the whatever you call it, the
Yeah,
glitter
it was
stick.
just a big thing and you just like rolled it on and you would glitter from head to toe. We all looked like we were going to like a 90s rave and really we were just going to like
Yeah.
middle school, but and we
Brittany, bring
smelled
it
like
back for
blueberries.
us. We're
I
looking we're
will
looking to you now.
I'll start looking into product development for roll-on body glitter.
Perfect. Oh man. Yeah, one of the things that we were talking about before too is like you and me kind of have this in common of like one of the things that I think we all miss about the 90s and early 2000s is just the lack of technology or at least the ability to not be so dependent on it. And so I want you to kind of talk to the listeners about that too because I think you brought up such a great point of this whole idea that like we know and we remember what it was like before those days. And yet we also have the experience of the power of technology and trying to kind of find that balance in our everyday lives.
Right. Because even when things like AIM with like AOL Instant Messenger was coming out, like it wasn't on us
Yeah.
24/7. We would have to wait until we got out of school and like rush home and get back to our away messages, you know? But
Mm-hmm.
now like we've got this little device that's in our pocket, in our hands 24/7. And even going on like vacation with my husband, we went and celebrated our 10-year anniversary recently. And I wanted so badly just to leave my phone in the hotel room, which I totally could have. Like
Yeah.
I was off of work, I was on PTO, I knew my kids were being well taken care of at home. But there was this lingering thought in the back of your head. It's like, well, what if I miss something? Like, what if someone's trying to get a hold? What if it's an emergency? And like back then, like
Mm-hmm.
we all survived. And I'm sure there were emergencies back then too, because I know there were, but
Yeah.
we weren't constantly tethered to this thing. And
Yeah.
as much as I would like to say, oh, I wish we weren't, I don't know if we would know how to function.
No, I don't think so. But
That's so
I think
depressing.
that's what we wish for so much though, right? It's like deep down there's that
Hmm.
wish to be like, oh, I wish I could function like I did as a 10-year-old kid again, you know? Oh, nostalgia.
I just want to show up one day to someone and be like, yeah, if you want to get a hold of me, you can call my beeper and I'll get back to you when I can. They'd be like, what?
Yeah.
But it'd be great.
Oh man. Well, Britt, you may not realize it yourself, but if nobody else has told you, let me be the first to tell you that you are doing the service of the gods and the goddesses out there on TikTok. You
I
are bringing laughter, joy, community. And hey, I mean, at least for me, I'll say it myself. I'm like, you are kind of like my therapy every day, just being able to kind of listen to you talk about the nostalgia of the way that things used to be, because exactly like you said, you bring up certain things from our childhood as millennials that I'm like, oh my god, I completely forgot about that, but it's so right, like that was such a big part of our culture and lives. So sincerely thank you for what you
Oh,
are
thank
doing out there.
you. I love that. That's so sweet to hear. I really appreciate that.
I really do mean it. And let everybody know to remind them how they can find you on the Tiki Taki.
Yeah, over on TikTok, it's Britt L. Kelly, BRITTLKELLY 919.
Perfect.
That's where you'll find me as the granny.
As the granny, yeah, you'll know that you've reached her when you see, as you'll see if you watch the YouTube version of the video podcast, that Britt looks much different than her granny filter.
It's really funny though, because I've got some followers that like have only ever seen Granny, and then they scroll enough and find a video of me not as Granny, and they're
Uh-huh.
like, "Holy shit!" They're like, "I
Like,
didn't even know that what you looked like." So
yeah,
that's kind of fun.
I love it. Well, thank you again, Brittany, so much for coming on the Millennials Reset podcast. And thank you all so much for tuning into another episode. If you like what you heard, be sure to share it out far and wide with all of your millennial besties. And be sure to visit the website too, www.themillennialreset.com, where you can listen and subscribe to the website, register for free upcoming events, and more. We'll see you next time on the next episode of the Millennial Reset. Hey besties, if you're one of the millions of millennials feeling stuck in a constant state of stress and burnout, then number one, you're not alone. And number two, there is a way out. Be sure to check out www.themillennialreset.com for free online workshops, or you can become a member and join a community of support to learn a better way out of burnout.